there, David?
Yeah, hey guys.
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good. Well, I'm going to first off start saying I'm actually a Roman Catholic, and I mean, I respect you guys' views and everything.
So are you a Roman Catholic that adheres to the previous pope or the current pope with regard to things like evolution?
Both.
Well, the current pope is trying to change so that evolution is no longer acceptable.
Well, I didn't want to exactly touch on that right now.
Okay.
But I did want to bring up the topic of creation with you guys. Sorry, this is kind of weird. It's like an echo with my TV.
Yeah, turn the TV down. It'll make it easier.
Okay. I just wanted to give you guys something to think about here. Let's suppose you were walking down like a path, like in a creek. You're in the woods or something, and you come across a watch.
Time out. Time out. This is the Watchmaker argument, and it's exactly what I talked about at the beginning of the show, only Ray Comfort comes up with painter and painting, and he tries to disguise it. Basically, the argument is if you find this watch lying on a beach, you instantly recognize, because of its complexity and sense of purpose, that it was in fact intelligently designed. That's exactly where you're going, correct? Okay. That argument has been demonstrated to be so horribly flawed, and yet I understand completely why it's presented, because it seems so reasonable. The reason why you recognize the watch is designed has nothing to do with how complex it is, how ordered it is, or any perceived sense of purpose. It's because you already know the watch is designed. You have a million examples of watches being designed, and none of them occurring naturally. And the occurring naturally is the key element. Humans occur naturally. Animals occur naturally. Rocks occur naturally. Buildings and watches don't. Now, some people have lodged certain objections to that, but I'd like to say that if you draw your analogy, your watchmaker analogy out to its logical conclusion, that there is a God, and he created the universe and everything in it. Then in reality, he also created the grains of sand on that beach, and therefore you are walking along a beach full of watches next to an ocean full of watches and a stream and a tree made of watches, and you're reaching down and picking up one watch and saying, this watch is so vastly different from the millions and trillions of other watches that are surrounding me that it is therefore proof of a designer. It is a self-reinforcing argument. You're inventing a claim based on, as I talked about earlier in the show, which you might have missed, we recognize the design because we've scaffolded ourselves up to the point where we can identify that this is actually the case, that this is actually designed. We don't get to put the designed label on it until we're certain that it is.
Well, I think you guys are missing the point of the analogy. I mean, let's bring this up. Let's say you were walking down that same path, and you see an eye laying on the ground.
And how is that different?
Well, it's not different. That's the point. You see an eye laying on the ground, and you instantly recognize, oh, that's an eye. It is made for the purpose of seeing. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Just switching the watch to the eye doesn't do anything to discount what I just said.
Well, I'm not trying to make a difference. I'm trying to draw the similarity between the two. You recognize that both of them are made.
I've already granted you that there's no difference in your argument whether you put a watch on the beach or an eyeball on the beach. I'll grant you there's no difference.
Uh-huh.
My rebuttal stands. I mean, how is it you think this is an argument for design? Because when you look around at humans, for example, you may see things that you identify as design or purpose. But in reality, the distinction, as I pointed out, is that humans occur naturally and watches don't.
Okay. The main point of the analogy, I'm not trying to say that humans and watches are one and the same. I'm just trying to bring across the point that you recognize that the watch was made for a purpose.
No, you don't. You didn't listen to what I said.
Both.
Go ahead. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I thought you guys. I just wanted to bring up this topic just to see what you guys thought about it. I'm sorry I didn't beginning of the show hear what you guys had to say.
That's all right. I think if there's plenty of answers online to this, and many of them may be better than mine. But what you're basically,
I still hold to what I say, and I still believe that everything I still believe. But I just feel like a lot of people in the atheist community are. I'm not trying to offend you guys or anything, but
you will
look at yourselves and ask yourselves: are we relying on science too much? Are we being arrogant?
That's absolute and utter. That's an absolute and utter nonsense. You're trying to denigrate science in order to bolster faith.
No.
Hang on. You are believing in something without any rational evidence, without any good reason to do so, and yet, in order to prop that up, you're willing to say, aren't you relying on science a little too much? In order to say you're relying on science a little too much, you first need to demonstrate that there is some better way of knowing. That's what this is all about, is a way to figure out and understand reality. And so far, science, the scientific method, the building of scientific models, has been the single most consistent, reliable method for discerning the difference between fact and fiction that we've ever come across. Nobody's suggested a possible better route, way to find the truth. All people do is hypothesize and claim divine revelation, personal experience, blind faith. These aren't ways to the truth. These are trappings. These are ways to believe what you want to believe. And until you can demonstrate that there's some better way of determining reality from non-reality than science, then your argument or your claim that maybe we're relying on science too much is patently absurd. And it's only made in order to bolster up the idea that you're not completely silly for relying on things for pure faith reasons. And in fact, you are. And I don't mean that in an insulting way, although it will be, and it's fair, because, you kind of did the same thing a second ago. I'm just saying that believe things for good reasons. Care about whether or not your beliefs are most likely true, more probably true. If you base, is there anything that's more likely to give us a correct answer than science?
Can I just give you one more thing to look at?
Sure, since you want to answer the question, give me one thing. We got 5 minutes and then we're done.
Okay. There is scientifically proven that, I don't know how much you know about the Catholic faith, but a priest, as he was giving Mass, he was a little bit doubtful of the Eucharist. You know what the Eucharist is?
Yes.
He was doubtful of it, and he was doubtful of Jesus' blood. And as a sign, during Mass, Jesus turned that piece of flesh into his own flesh. And the wine, he turned that into his own blood. And this is fact because both the body and the blood have been preserved for over 1,700 years.
You need to stop believing things on faith and actually examine and use a little bit of reason, a little bit of critical thinking, and look for scientific evidence. Instead of worrying about whether or not we're relying too much on science, maybe you should try and exercise a little science. There's claims of saints' bodies being preserved perfectly. These things have scientific explanations. The Catholic Church is rife with hoaxes and false stories, anything to exonerate and magnify the saints. It's patently absurd. If what you claim was true, everybody on earth would know it. No miracle has ever occurred. No miracle has ever been demonstrated. No miracle has ever been proven. If it had happened, everybody would know. It would be the ultimate story. There would be no atheists. There would be no significant debate on the issues. The fact is, you're relying on things for no good reason. And I'm sorry that we wasted so much time to get around to a Eucharist story. By the way, which part of Jesus did it turn into? Was it the foreskin, maybe? The Bible seems extremely obsessed with foreskin. I'm betting that's what it was. All right, so that was a little mean. Screw it.